Alright guys, so after I scoffed at some changes that were done to Muradin, someone in my Discord mentioned that I misread one of his talent changes and that it's much better than I made it out to be. And we're talking about a talent called Bronzebeard's Rage. And Bronzebeard's Rage, to explain a little bit about what this talent does, I'll leave it on play while I'm talking about it, is it deals 21 damage per second to nearby enemies and heals, and that damage is doubled when you auto-attack a target that's rooted, stunned, or slowed, okay? And this talent, they added the fact that you heal for 75% damage done this way. And I kind of looked at this because I thought it had to be against heroes to heal that, and I was like, oh, healing static's still way better. And then my friend explained to me, one of the mods in my Discord explained that this works on everything. This means that if you deal AoE damage to minions, if you do it to turrets, if you do it to Nazebo's summons, if you do it to camps, bosses, whatever, you're healing based off of that. And if by any way that damage is increased because the enemies have armor removal, you're healing yourself more, it just heals for a lot and it does a lot of damage. So with that in mind, and some of the other changes that were done to Muradin, for example, this reverberation talent got a pretty big buff. So not only does it increase the slow duration, it increases the attack speed slow amount, but it also now makes it to where it lowers the cooldown of your ultimate ability. So I looked at these two talents and I went, okay, if they're slowed for longer, and if hitting targets that are slowed doubles the damage, and given the axe also increases the damage of hitting slowed targets, I was like, maybe there's a build here. I'm not the greatest Muradin player, so I told a couple other friends to mess around with this and see what they thought about this build, as well as I've been keeping an eye on the win rates of different talents. And Muradin's a hero that naturally has lower than a 50% win rate for the most part of the last 6 to 8 months, okay? And I've been watching the win rates of these talents, and I've been talking to my friends about this build, and my friends have been saying that this build does a lot of damage, and it's actually pretty cool. And I looked at the win rates of these talents, and what would you guess? The highest win rates: Reverberation, Give him the Axe, Bronzebeard's Rage. So picking these talents is working for a lot of people. So I wanted to show you guys this game and explain a few things why I really like it. So we actually have Gazlo as a bot for right now. He left the game. He's attempting to reconnect, but he's gone. And there we go. So he's joining back in. So the start of this game was a little rough for us. The enemies had a bit of advantage, and honestly, we played pretty bad for the most part of this game, and we lose a decent chunk of it. But that being said, I do want to talk about this build, and we'll probably fast forward through a decent chunk of the early game. All I'll say in the early game is we get kind of stomped. But I do want to share a little bit on the playstyle, and then I'll go over the build as we're going for it. So the playstyle is that I play rather safe with Muradin. Is this the correct playstyle? I'm not really sure, but I use this playstyle on a lot of tanks, where instead of looking for crazy engages, I instead look for enemy mistakes, and that's about it. So if you see, a lot of what I'm doing is simply just looking for enemies that are making mistakes and peeling for my team. If they make a major mistake, we get a kill. If they don't make a major mistake, we don't get a kill, but we also don't die. So I tend to play this safer playstyle with all of my tanks, and it seems to work out okay with Muradin. So while you can jump in and get that bonus armor, my playstyle doesn't really get value out of the armor, but at the same time, you generally just die less. So I recommend mimicking my playstyle until you really get a hang of Muradin, and then you can adjust it to your own playstyle. Anyways, let's talk about the build a little bit. As I fast forward through a decent chunk of this, I'll just toss it on a little bit of a fast forward. I will say in the early portion of this game, my damage, I'm only a third of our damage dealer, right? This build doesn't really come online until level 7, and then again at level 13. Those are the biggest power spikes. And my goal with this build is to not give up the things that make him a great tank, but instead to just add to those by increasing his damage output. So you're going to notice that a lot of the talents that I pick are still very familiar talents, with the exception of those few that I explained. Mainly just the two, the level 4 and the level 13 talents are the main ones that are being adjusted. I do go with Perfect Storm at level 1, but my reasoning for this is purely because their enemy team does not have any poke, so I don't need to worry about Third Wind. I do think there's still a reason to take either talent, but in solo queue, I would imagine Perfect Storm will give you more opportunities to win, and in this case, it is the higher hero damage talent that is helping me get to where I get to this game. Level 4, Reverberation. This is going to increase the slow duration and the hero or their attack speed slow as well. So this is going to let it to where I reduce the enemy's damage at the same time as I'm increasing my damage, purely because the longer that they're slowed, the longer Give 'em the Axe and Bronzebeard's Rage will get benefits. So I pretty much get 1 extra second of benefits with Reverberation. It's pretty strong. Thunderburn does do extra damage as well, but it's nowhere near the extra damage you get from Give 'em the Axe and from Bronzebeard's Rage, and at the same time, Reverberation does so much more. It lowers their attack speed, and it also lowers the cooldown of your heroic ability. Give 'em the Axe is a pretty amazing talent. You can see how much damage I do to Artanis in this situation, where it makes it to where your next 3 attacks, essentially, for the next 3 seconds anyways, your attacks will do 50% more damage. As long as you attack a target that's slowed, rooted, or stunned, you have 3 seconds of bonus damage. So right here, you can see where I can use my W to slow them the first time, then I can use my Q to slow them the second, or stun them the next time, and get the bonus damage off the entire time. You get a good chunk of bonus damage because you can usually get about 6 seconds of bonus damage in the best case scenario. I guess best case scenario is 7.5 seconds. But for on average, I would say you get 4 to 6 seconds if you're doing it correctly whenever there's fights. Level 10, I go Avatar. I still like that ability of if people are chasing you down, you get really low health, you pop Avatar, and suddenly you've got this second giant health bar that they can't deal with. Which is why I really like Avatar. And it gives me more time to get more attacks with Give 'em the Axe and more damage with Bronzebeard's Rage. We'll see the value of that later. Haymaker certainly is more damage up front, more damage in burst, but again, we don't want to give up the things that make us an amazing tank to get this bonus damage. So with Avatar, we're not giving up any damage, and we're also getting that survivability, because the longer we can stay in the fight, the more damage we can do. Level 13, Bronzebeard's Rage. That's what the whole build's based around. You have to go that talent. Level 16, you go Stone Form, especially if you're going the Avatar. Because if you're going Avatar, you're increasing your maximum health, and then you're healing yourself by your maximum health. So you get a giant heal. I would imagine if you're not going Avatar, instead you're going Haymaker, you're going to want to go Imposing Presence, so you get another form of a slow. You can simply activate this at any point and add an extra slow. So if you wanted to do damage to a target, for example right here, I might stun him and attack him 3 times, then I might use my W and attack him 3 times, and then Imposing Presence attack him 3 times, and then stun attack him 3 times. And you can see how you can take the Give 'em the Axe benefit and keep it going for a really, really long period of time. But I do think Stone Form is just really, really powerful for staying alive. You could go increase range and lower cooldown on your toss if you're going for that, but generally, I think that Avatar is too good to pass up. So I'm playing rather safe. I'm going in, I do half of Diablo's health, I hop out, and I get into tower range. I'm just trying to stall the objective as long as possible, see if we can hit a power spike or something, because I'm not really risking anything by doing this. Because I'm keeping up my Dwarf Toss every time, and I'm healing back up with Second Wind in between these engages. So it's really not costing me very much. I'm keeping 2 people distracted down in the bottom lane, and my hope is that I can just keep everything going. I do need to stun them both to get out, and I do have the Pierce now on my queue, which is your #1 goal when you're playing Muradin in the beginning, is finish this Pierce quest. The extra stacking is just gravy. I would save your Q for situations you need it, more so than just stacking for damage, and you'll get the damage eventually. The rest of the playstyle, I'll cover this as I'm talking through this game of what things you should be looking for. You should be looking for people that are out of position like this, trying to stun them so your team can actually set up, and seeing if you could just get a little bit of damage on them. Only jump in when you have ways to escape, which in this case, I didn't have anything. I jumped in, used Avatar, and that was my only way of really staying alive. Thank you to Abathur for keeping me alive, because I definitely would have died in that situation. And Tyrande. I actually pinged Tyrande because that was a pretty Both of them kept me alive when I made a major mistake. I should not have jumped in. I jumped in because I got a little carried away with the bonus damage I was getting. Then you get lasered. You can go for the Diablo here, but no way we get that kill, and we don't want to chase him into the range of the walls because then he'll flip us over. In this case, he only flipped the clone over, so we were perfectly fine. And if you get flipped over, make sure that you just have your Dwarf Toss available. They end up going up here, and we probably shouldn't take this fight. We don't have clone. All the enemies are up, and they have level 13s on us. But if you see, all the damage that myself and the Sylvanas did to the white main immediately was pretty impressive. So you can definitely see how powerful this is, but we're actually going to fast forward because we want to see what Bronzebeard's Rage does in this. We're going to fast forward through all of this. And it takes me a while to pick the talents. We're going to fast forward through all of this too. We're going to kill someone who made a mistake. And again, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's easier to win games if you just punish mistakes. But we get Bronzebeard's Rage, and now look at this. We are charging in here. Go for a stun. Auto attack on a stun target. Bonus damage. Look at all of this healing. Look at all this damage that I'm doing. We are just melting through their team. We are slowing attack speed. We are lowering avatar cooldown. We are meleeing people who are stunned to increase the damage of our Bronzebeard's Rage. We are stunning people to kill them. That is so much damage we did right there. And I'll admit, we didn't do great that team fight. We lost 2 people. But that's still a good chunk of damage, and we killed 2 people. Actually, we killed 3 because we used his souls. That's a 3-for-2 trade.
Symbiotic link established.
And so this build gets even more insane when you start fighting in big groups of enemies or if you fight on a camp. So if you're ever going against this build, one of the biggest counters is to spread out, to not fight in waves. Like, look at this damage. Gazlo hasn't even gotten up to us yet. This is just a W, a Q from Abathur, and all the rest of this damage. Probably 50% of this health in like 3 seconds is literally from Muradin. It's crazy. And I'm healing this whole time too. Look at this. We're just melting people. People are getting destroyed. Now, I mean, our team's still dying too. And this is a big laser that did a lot of damage on a big target. But like, still, we're going to fast forward a little bit. And that was down 16s too. So that's probably my fault. And again, I'm not the greatest Muradin. I get a little carried away. In this case, we see that all the enemies went missing after they killed us. So it's pretty obvious that they're on boss. With Diablo going up there, I thought he was there, but then no one else is showing up, so I know they're on boss. We're down level 16s. We just had 2 people die, but at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I don't want them to have a boss, and I'm playing Muradin. So I jump in there, I start hitting people, I miss my Stormbolt, but I'm still in there, doing damage, getting the value. I see the Diablo charging at me, use my Q, I reposition so he can't stun me against a wall, reposition again so he can't stun me against a wall, jump away, wait until the boss gets a little bit lower, let the boss do some damage to him, you know, the usual. I start healing with Second Wind, I get in there, I use my avatar, and I'm just attacking targets that are slow, and look at this healing! Look at how much healing! They can't kill me! There's nothing they can do to kill me! Between the Tyrande, who is healing me, and healing off of 4 targets that were around me, they couldn't do anything. That's 39 damage per second, doubled, which is essentially 80 damage per second on 4 targets, and healing for 75% of that damage. Plus the healing of the Tyrande, the Abathur. I was unkillable and doing so much damage to the enemies. We got a boss. The boss won us the objective. We take this objective. We start pushing it in. So this is what you're going to expect out of Muradin in this build. Is just this unkillable person if he jumps on a point. So when is this build good? When is this build bad? This build is good on maps that you can be next to a lot of structures, next to a lot of minions that you can heal off of, because the more damage you do, the better. But, I mean, even just watch this. There's this white main, right? Full health, white main. No one else is attacking her. One Q, one W, some auto attacks. Half health. Lower than half health, but Gazlo did zap her. So much damage. I didn't peel for the Sylvanas, so the Thrall kills the Sylvanas, unfortunately. Which is why, again, I still think as cool as this is, and as much as this build feels like you're just this unkillable monster that's killing everything, I do want to mention that you may want to still focus on peeling, because you'll still have this ability to kill whoever you want to, but it's going to be so much easier if your team's still alive when you're doing that. So generally, focus on peeling, and then outside of that, you can do the extra damage there. But yeah, this build is just doing so much damage. Level 16, you can see the value of Stone Form. I use Avatar and then Stone Form, and I heal for a bunch. We'll see this used a little bit more later and the value of it. But for now, and then level 20, I pick up Rewind. Avatar, getting armor, you're already unkillable. Basic attacks reduce the cooldown of Thunderclap could be interesting, purely because your Thunderclap's also going to reduce the cooldown of your Avatar. So while you're in Avatar, you could be Thunderclapping a bunch and then healing a bunch. But generally, I don't think it's worth it when Rewind can allow you to 100 to 0 a target. And I'll do that in try mode afterwards so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But right here, this is like the prime fight for Muradin. They even throw a laser on me. I get in the middle of this team. I'm hitting 4 people with my AoE right now. Healing for 63 times 4 every second. This laser can go on me and it won't do a thing. I mean, it'll do a lot of damage, but don't get me wrong. Watch this. I'm going to use Avatar, and then I'm going to use Stone Form. Look at this healing over time. This healing over time is like half of a health bar, and not to mention that health bar is bigger because of Avatar. I'm healing for like 70% of my health right now. Not to mention the healing over time from Bronzebeard's Rage. They pretty much... I had a laser on me that entire fight, and I'm like full health. And I'm just sitting on people. Just hitting them. For a ridiculous amount of health. Look at this. We just walked through their team and did so much damage. We're going to fast forward through a little bit. We go up to this. Guess what? They're fighting on a camp. We hop in there. They know they can't take this fight. I stun them. I use Rewind. I stun them again. We take them out. Easy peasy. That's why I like Rewind. So, to explain a little bit about Rewind, my Q does 241 damage, right? And then it does an extra 335 damage, so it's doing 500 damage. My W does 211 damage. My E does 129 damage. You double this. 130, whatever. 260 damage. 411 damage. What is that? 1,000 damage. You combine all of this together, and you're looking at about 2,000 damage, right? 2,000 damage. That's not including auto attacks. So while they're stunned for 2 seconds and a half? 2.5 seconds? So while they're stunned for 2.5 seconds, you get 3 auto attacks off on them that are all doing like 300 damage. You're doing 3,000 damage to someone, not including the damage over times. That's why Rewind's so good, is you can almost kill anyone in the game if you can use Rewind correctly. So I'm just taking damage from my team. I'm giving them time to damage the structures, and I can always gain back my life. So I just need to stand next to someone, and look at this. They're all attacking me. Boom! Look at that healing over time. Avatar, into Second Wind, healing myself for a ridiculous amount, not to mention getting healing over time because of the damage I'm doing with Bronzebeard's Rage. Absolutely insane. Yeah, so I won't go into try mode. Just say you have enough damage to 100 to 0 anyone with Rewind if you go this build. And look at this. Yes, we lost someone, but look how many people we're killing. We're walking through their team. They had to deal with cams. If I was more confident, I would be able to kill her right now. But I'm not confident, so I walk away. I start dealing damage to structures. I'm not even confident enough to go for this Diablo at the moment. I miss my Q. That's why I'm not confident. But we take this for free. We fast forward. and we're gonna go back into another fight. They're charging in. I charge in. Stun, W, auto attack, jump on the other side of him, rewind, stun, W, auto attack. And guess what? I still have my jump. Use my jump, get him low, dies to minions. What are we at right now? We are at 96,000 hero damage, top in the charts, absolutely dominating. Pad my stats a little bit, pretty much 100 to 0, very slowly. Take out this guy over here. Essentially goes from 60% health to nothing. Melting down this guy, Thrall realizes, he's like, I can't even deal with this Muradin, so I'm not even going to try. Thrall just walks away. And what are we at? Over 100,000 hero damage. Over 134,000 siege damage. This build right here is something. So, I said earlier, what are the times it's good? And I mentioned Infernal Shrines, maps that you're surrounded by units, maps where people have to stay on an objective, maps where there might be heavily contested camps. Those are maps that he's good on. Where does he struggle? Well, you see, the old build is still pretty good if you're fighting enemy heroes in areas that are far away from minions. So, for example, if you're on maps like Hanamura, I would still recommend the old build over this build, where you're just only fighting heroes, you're not fighting a lot of minions. But in any case, if you are going in areas where there's a lot of summoned units, or because I was watching, the reason I got into this is my mod sent me, if you ever go in my Discord, I'll put the link in the description, Arvalin sent me this thing, showed me this replay. Muradin hopped in to a Nazebo, hit a Nazebo once, proccing Bronzebeard's Rage, and then got pulled into the Nazebo wall, and this Muradin was half health, was full health by the time that Nazebo wall dropped because of Bronzebeard's Rage. It's insane. So, really interesting build. If I was better at Muradin, I would be Weiss's high stats for these games. So those that are better at Muradin, try this build out. Let me know what you think, and then get back to me, because I've been having a lot of fun with it, and I've been watching, some of my friends have been playing it, saying that it's actually pretty ridiculous. Check it out. Let me know what you think about Bronzebeard's Rage. Let me know what you think about Reverberation, and get back to me. Cool. If you guys have any other things you'd like to add, toss it down below.